this stuff here. Basically, it comes on very thin, and then a couple minutes later, it expands like this. Measure 7 times, weld once. What is up, guys? Welcome back to a brand new episode from Backyard Boys, and in this episode, I am super excited because we're gonna be officially done with the quarter panel. As you guys can tell, that the quarter panel is on the vehicle, and in the last episode I left you guys off on some crusty gap over here, and off camera I did do a little bit of knick-knacking and made things fit really nice. So what we're gonna do in this episode is go ahead and pull this quarter panel off, prime everything inside, make sure it's all waterproof, rust proof, and sealed up, and then we're gonna go ahead and put this quarter panel on for good, meaning we're gonna go ahead and weld it on, weld that piece under, and by the end of this episode, like I said earlier, this quarter panel is gonna be officially on the vehicle, and we're gonna go ahead and transfer onto working on the front end of the car. I'm already tired of working on this little corner. There's so much work getting all the structural stuff back into spec, but I'm happy that it's almost done. Before we start off this episode, be sure to smash that subscribe button down below. Don't forget to follow my Instagram at BYBTim, and if you guys wanna support the channel anyhow, smash that like button. Don't forget to cop yourself some merch. Let's get along with this episode. First things first, I want to show you guys the gap over here, and maybe you guys can tell on camera it's a little bit tighter over here. What you do for that is just push this area in, basically where it should sit, and there it goes. Nice and even all through, and look how this door opens and closes. Ready? Very nice, no funny noises or anything like that. What we got to do is actually adjust this fender as well. This fender got to go down just a slight tiny bit, but this fender is adjustable, so I'm not scared of any of the gaps. Over here, my main thing was to get the gap to the door and quarter panel perfect, which it is perfect now. The gap up here by the trunk is perfect as well. Right now, let's go ahead and pull this quarter panel off, start prepping, start having fun, and wrap up this quarter panel job that was just kind of a nightmare. Not too hard though. Whatever, let's get it. So we are now putting in some self-tapping screws in, right here, some of these suckers. Self-drilling, boom, boom. And the reason why we're putting them in is because we got to get the quarter panel stationary prior to anything. I went ahead and folded this over here. Everything's folded nice and neat. It is really ugly on the outside, will be glazed and perfected. But for now, all the gaps are pretty. The gap on the door is really nice. What we got to do prior to doing any kind of welding is go ahead and test fit that rear bumper on the vehicle, which is outside. So we're gonna carry it in, test fit it, make sure everything lines up, and then start welding. Measure 7 times, weld once. Let's do it. Got the bumper on and everything's fitting nice and neat. Gaps here are nice, gaps by the door are clean. Inside here I put some rigid pillar foam, so this stuff here, basically it comes on very thin and then a couple minutes later it expands like this, and that just gives this area a nice hard, basically dentless area. Well, not dentless, but you guys get the point. I went ahead and folded this here as well, so this is nice and finished. Right now it's time to weld. We're gonna pull everything back off. I got my self-tapping screws in random places on the quarter panel, make sure it's nice and stiff, and will be like this once it's all welded on. So now it's time to weld, and then right after that we're gonna seam seal everything. So seam seal inside here, seam seal the crack here, seam seal everywhere that needs to be seam sealed, and we're done with the quarter panel. But we're gonna leave the mudding off until the car is basically all done, because there's a lot of mud that's gonna be on this car, like areas of mud, not like thickness of it. So here, little dent here, little funny spot here by the quarter panel. The fender is gonna be mudded, and then we have a new hood, other fender, the door, everything. I think the door has a little ding on it. We gotta look at everything. Once everything structurally is correct, then we're gonna get into the other phase, which is light work, which is the body filler, making things look prestige. So, prestige is the right word, yeah?
Pristine.
Pristine, there you go. Let's continue working. Well, it's gonna be a wrap for tonight. It is getting cold and it is getting late. It's about 8 p.m. right now. We got about 75% of the welding complete. We do have the section from here down behind the wing, behind the trunk and under the bumper to get done. Besides that, all this is folded. Everything else here is finished. So I'm really happy about all that. Everything's lining up. I'm liking the progress so far. Coming very close to finishing on this quarter panel. Besides the bodywork, obviously, but that's going to be in a couple of episodes because we got to pull out the front. But I'm going to wrap it up for tonight. Catch you guys tomorrow morning. So it is the next morning here. We're energized, feeling good, and we're going to go ahead and wrap this quarter panel up. Like I said earlier last night, we got to weld this back here and then seam seal the inside of this and seam seal wherever else needs to be seam sealed. There's not much seam sealing on this car or there's not much bondoing or seam sealing on this car because everything's kind of hidden under panels. So it's really easy to do. There's some sealing back here, some seam sealing back here, and a little bit inside here, I think so. Yeah, I think so. I'll look at it once the bumper's off. It's not that difficult. Let's go ahead and pop this bumper off, pop the trunk off completely, and finish up welding. Well, boys, we got it all welded up. It's looking pretty. Now what we're gonna do to kind of wrap up the quarter panel for now, prior to the bodywork, is we're gonna get a belt file, which is down right there. And Dan, if you're watching it, shout out to you for buying that belt file. That thing works awesome. We're gonna go ahead and knock down all the welds, make it flat enough so we can seam seal all the cracks inside here, get all this stuff seam sealed up, make it look very nice and pretty, seam sealed under here, and then we're ready for the front end. Super excited. Let's go ahead and get all this stuff belt filed down, all the welds looking pretty, make sure they're all nice and sturdy, which they are 100% because I welded through all the metal, got them all connected, and man, it's gonna hold on forever. But we gotta make it pretty now because that's a big part of our quality. So let's get it done. All right, well, as you guys saw right there, we went ahead and prepped the quarter panel for a seam seal. And you know what, I actually decided not to seam seal this area here up until the quarter panel is actually mudded out, just because I might be hammering here and I don't want to ruin the seam sealer. So what we're gonna do is seam seal all around here, you know, everywhere where it needs to be seam sealed, but right here. So let's go ahead and get some tape, mask things off. Everything's already prepped out. Got the bare metal, you know, got the cracks nice and even, nice and tight, hammered everything together. That way the seam seal will fill in everything and it'll be super, super clean and water repellent, just like we need it to do. So let's get it together, get that thing seam sealed, and basically done with the quarter panel. Super excited. So we got some heavy body seam sealer. Sucker's thick, so it's nice and heavy. I can get it all inside the cracks, push it in there with my little brushes I got here. I like to trim the brushes just so it'd be a more rougher, I guess. So it's nice and easy, then you can spread it. You gotta run a little bit through, that way the mixture gets nice and mixed in here. And then we're ready to go. All right, let's go. So I'm gonna just fill right inside the crack. Just fill right into there. And then whatever's extra gets spread evenly, distributed wherever it needs to go. Work with a little section at a time, that way it's nice and neat. Look at that. Wow. Well, it is all seam sealed up now, and in the next episode, we're gonna start working on the front end. Yes, there are a couple of spots that still need to be seam sealed. For example, I seamed up the crack over here, but I have not made that pretty bead on the outside. So I'll do that later alongside with this over here, and then on the insides here and here, I'm gonna glaze it. That way it looks perfect before we put the windows in or before we put any of the moldings on or any of the rubber seals on. So that's gonna be it for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and thank you guys so much for tuning in and watching till the very end. Go ahead and comment your thoughts and ideas down below. Don't forget to like this video to show your support. If you guys want to copy yourself some merch, I will have a link down below. One piece of merch goes a long way. Shout out to all you guys that have been buying merch. Once again, I am out. On to the next one.